Good afternoon, class. How are y'all?
Good.
That's great. What's your name?
Melissa Cooper.
I'm Abby, and I hope y'all are not only doing well today, but I hope you're all also very hydrated because we are in fact talking about water. So, just to start off with, did y'all know that the water we are drinking right now has been around for millions and millions of years? That's right, it's infinite. It's always been here and it's never going anywhere. The world needs water. We are in fact drinking from the same water that the dinosaurs used to drink from. But how is this possible? Well, it's possible from a process called the water cycle. The water cycle is a process of Earth's water being used over and over again. It's a process of water on, above, and even under the Earth's surface. Without this cycle, there would be no room for fresh water being able to be used over and over again on a daily basis for the daily tasks that we see every day in our life or even that we don't see. So my objective today is that you all will be able to identify what the water cycle is, as well as identify each part of the water cycle and its role and how it benefits our daily lives. And I'm going to be doing that in 3 separate parts. First, we're going to go over each individual part of the water cycle and its role in the order of it. Then we're going to discuss its role to us and the world around us. And then we're going to do an experiment with this pot that you see in the background and watch it take action. So first I have this graph right here. It starts off, as you can see, the ocean is at the bottom, but it doesn't just have to be an ocean. It can be any body of water, whether it's as big as the ocean, which takes up the majority of the world, or it can be a river, or get smaller to a pond, or even a puddle off the ground. Any little body of water, that water is going to be evaporated to the clouds, so the heat from the sun is going to warm that body of water, and it's going to change states of matter. So it's going to go from a liquid to water vapor, which is gas. And once it's up here, the air is going to get cooler. The vapor is going to turn into tiny droplets of liquid water, and these drops gather to form clouds. And once these droplets get a little too heavy, then they're going to start falling. So after condensation is precipitation, and that's whenever it falls. And we can see this through rain, but not only rain, it can also change different states of matter and go to solid, which is seen through like sleet or hail. And then the process goes over and over again. It gets collected or run off back into the body of water, and it just keeps on going and going. So why is this important? Well, parts of Earth and space help to make the water cycle possible. So as we saw in the graph, oceans are part of the world, and there's different landforms that make this all possible as well. And not only does the Earth have a huge part of this, but the atmosphere and the universe does. So gravity plays a role in this, the sun, the climate, it all plays a role in this cycle. So for us, that was what it does for the world, but for us, it allows us fresh water for drinking, it allows us fresh water for showering, washing clothes, doing laundry. It also allows us to be sanitary, be safe, and even support electricity production, which I did not know. Do y'all know any other things that it could support?
No.
Or no? No? Okay. And that's perfectly okay. So now we're going to see through an experiment how this can work. So, as you can see, the water is boiling on the stove here. Does everyone see this?
Yes.
Okay, so I can't really show it, but right now the water is boiling. So this can be considered as evaporation, because the water is changing states. It's like going into vapor. And if I hold this lid, as you can see, it's dripping, but as you can see, there's droplets and on there, which can be considered the condensation because of the water vapor, going into the clouds. And if I hold it over long enough, it would eventually begin to drop, which could be reflected as the precipitation, and it would go immediately back into the pot, which can be considered the body of water. And that same cycle would continue to repeat as long as the stove is on. So, as we can see, like I mentioned earlier in the graph, that the water can change different states of matter. So obviously it starts out as water, and then all of this is forming into gas, all like the smoke and vapors you see, that's the changing states of matter. And obviously would not change into the state of, solids or anything, but in the real world, we can see that if you're in a cold climate and instead of after condensating, the water vapor or the tiny droplets would turn into, sleet or snow if it was like a colder environment. So is there anything else that y'all see or wondered from that?
No.
Okay. All right, so raise your hand. We're just gonna review a little bit. Raise your hand if you can tell me what this beautiful process does for our world. You, yes.
It recycles water over and over again.
Correct, that's great. And what does it allow us to do? What does it give us? Do you know?
It gives us fresh water.
That is literally correct. So, it allows us to be clean, to have fresh drinking water, to grow crops. It helps job production because the farmers, if they didn't have the fresh water, their crops would not survive, right?
Correct.
Yes. And like I said, it allows us to have electricity produced, which I did not know that. So that's a very interesting fact. Some of these things you may have known, or some of these things you may have not known. But I want you to acknowledge these benefits as you go out into the world, as you leave my class today. I want you to go out and carry about your day, but just take into notice these little impacts of the water cycle. So if I turn on the sink, if you're about to go cook at the stove, just remember the experiment I showed you, or if it's raining, just remember that there's a certain cycle that had to go through, and that water bottle you're picking up has once been, obviously purified and stuff, but it's carried on through millions and millions of years, and I think that's a great thing. So I want y'all to not only recognize that, but also appreciate the impacts of the cycle and what it does for our world. Y'all have a great day.
You too.